لا إله إلا الله.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Peace and blessings be with Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam and everyone who is following his footsteps until the day of judgment. Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. So today's topic is achieving success. And I believe before we will delve into Quranic understanding of success and how to achieve it, the first thing I think that we should think about is actually scaling of success. Like what can we actually consider to be a success? And when we look at things on a smaller scale, I think it appears that success sometimes success is not really something that is, let's say, putting you in amazement, or it's not an event that is necessarily like life altering, but you will see that this chain of small things that you are actually able to succeed in on a daily basis, that these portions of small successes, this is something that we should also bear in mind and appreciate as a success as well. This is something that would actually, I think, bring us a sense of accomplishment and fulfill this void that many people feel, especially when they compare themselves to others and when they aim for something really high and big. Sometimes we need this sense that, okay, I achieved something on my way to something bigger. And now, starting from actually the definition of success from purely Quranic perspective, there will be, let's say, two parts to which we will look into today. The first one would be more, let's say, simple in a way, or maybe somehow like in a really direct way described what actually is success and what brings you success. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, certainly will the believers have succeeded. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell you that believers will succeed, that they succeeded. And now He will tell you why, what this success is, or what are the components of this success. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, they who are during their prayer humbly intent. So the first part or a component of this success is your prayer. And it's not only a prayer, it's a prayer in which you are really focused, where the intention is on the spot, when you are actually focused on your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the first step. And actually, if we would only focus on adhan, when we say hayya ala salah, hayya ala al-falah, so falah is also a sort of success. So we are actually encouraging each other upon the call to the prayer to come to the success. Come to the success. So the first step is actually a prayer. So let's assume we are regular day-to-day Muslims, and we should actually consider it to be a success. If you pray your 5 daily prayers and you do your best to actually be focused in them, this is a small but a really significant success. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes further and says, and they who turn away from ill speech. Another thing that we maybe don't see as something life-altering, something great, but when you actually stop yourself from backbiting, saying empty stuff that will bring you no benefit, something that can possibly cause harm to others. If you stop yourself from causing harm to others with your tongue, and Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has said that the tongue actually is this part of the body that will lead many people to hellfire. So this is another success, right? This is another component. You have a prayer, you established it, you follow the 5 daily prayers, you try to be focused on them. Now you take care of the of the tongue and what it brings to this world. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues. And he says that another component is, and they who are observant of zakah. So they are not stingy. They actually give from their money, and they purify their money by giving to those in need. So we all know that zakah is a pillar of Islam, and the word zakah comes from tazkiyah, from purification. So our wealth has to be purified by giving from our wealth to those who are in need, the amount that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed for us. And later on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us another component of the success, and they who guard their private parts, except from their wives or those their right has possessed. But whoever seeks beyond that, then those are the transgressors. So now we are going to the matter of your purity, from the physical aspect, right? So you're keeping your private parts away from zina. You're keeping your private parts away from adultery, and you make sure that you meet your desires, the natural human desires, in a way that is pleasable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, it seems like really small and obvious, right? It's a contact between men and women, something that seems to, again, not be something that you would cherish as a success, but indeed it is a success. And later on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and they who are to their trusts and their promises attentive. If you are being entrusted with something, if you have given promise to do something or to keep something, then if you are trustworthy, just as Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was hailed as trustworthy, then it is another success. Again, maybe not something that you would hail as a success, not something that people would write about in newspapers, but you're keeping your promises, you're trustworthy, another component of the success. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and they who carefully maintain their prayers, those, and he goes back to the prayers, those are the inheritors who will inherit al-firdaus, the highest rank of paradise. They will abide therein eternally. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through these steps, through these components, He leads you all the way to this true success, to paradise. And not only paradise, to al-firdaus, to the highest rank of paradise. And again, we mentioned all of these things, and most of them are components of your daily lives. So your prayers, zakah, turning away from the ill speech, your relationship, your sexual relationship with your spouse, also the being trustworthy, standing up for what you have been entrusted with, and so on. Really small things. But now when we look at the issues that we face as society today, and wherever that would be, whether it would be here in Europe or somewhere in the East, it doesn't matter. We will find that most of the issues that we are facing as societies are actually because we are not sticking to these really fundamental rules or components of success. So we see people who are actually, if they are already Muslim, they are neglecting the prayer. If they are praying, maybe they are praying because they are used to, maybe because they saw their parents doing so and they are just used to do it as well. You have people who are not really they do not really care about maintaining the purity of their sexual relationships, and they do not keep it only for their spouses, for their wives and husbands, but they are doing it quite loosely, and adultery is widespread nowadays almost everywhere. One of the greatest problems that we face, and whether that would be in a personal relationships or in work environment, is that people are not are not actually fulfilling their promises, right? And how many of you probably have faced this situation when you were, for example, promised a raise, or you were promised um, a promotion, and it never happened, right? So someone broke their promises. And when there is no trust, there is less involvement, there is less dedication, and there is less progress. So these are like really simple things, right? And it sounds cliche to talk about it, that, oh yeah, we are coming here and gathering here in a masjid to talk about components of success. And you're hearing about all of these simple things, right? Do not lie. Like when you promise something, just do it, right? It seems so trivial, right? But it's actually a necessity. These are actually foundations, and these are actually foundations that are being neglected on a daily basis. Inshallah, not by us, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to fulfill these components for the success. But the reality is that this world today, wherever that would be, without let's say idealizing the Islamic world, these are being neglected everywhere. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us these components gradually leading us to the ultimate success, which is Al-Firdaus al-A'la, the highest rank of paradise. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says that every soul will taste death, and you will only be given your full compensation on the day of resurrection. So he who is drawn away from the fire and admitted to paradise has attained victory. And what is the life of this world except the enjoyment of delusion? So again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you this idea that the true success, the true victory is over there. And everything, all of these components are part of this process. So when we scale things, and we all aspire to do amazing things, and that is really great. But sometimes we have to scale it to understand that there are smaller things, smaller success that are extremely relevant to achieve greater success. And there is no greater success than paradise. And so these small things that we can see as really hard to spot on a daily basis, these are the components that will lead you to what is right. And just as we even saw, right, throughout this, through this ayah, through this ayat actually, we see that these things, they have a direct impact on even the worldly life success. So you want to achieve success in your job, right? But it's hard to do when like one of both parties is not actually fulfilling their promises. If you want to achieve success in your marriage, but it's hard when someone is not loyal, right? So these are things that not only bring you to paradise, but these are actually the things that will bring you some sort of measurable success in this life as well. And now actually we will come to the second, let's say, more maybe historical part of this lecture that will give us understanding how should we approach our pursuit of success. And we get this understanding, or good understanding of it, from the story of Musa alayhi salam, Prophet Moses alayhi salam. So he had quite an extraordinary life. He was supposed to be dead when he was a newborn child. Then his mother put him into the basket, and then she put the basket into the river, so he could have technically died in the river as well. Then the basket has hit the shore, he could have died there as well. Then he was found by the very people who wanted to kill him, the Pharaoh, so he could have died there as well. Then when he grew up and he was raised in Pharaoh's palace, then later on when he was actually known and respected amongst people, by mistake he he killed someone, and then the elite of his community wanted to, or plotted against him and wanted to kill him. So again, he was supposed to die. So he had to run away. He was left with nothing. And then we come to the part of the story when we have Musa alayhi salam, who is left with nothing. He's still not prophet yet, and he already avoided death several times. And now he's in this situation when he has nothing, and he raises his hands and he asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he is in dire need of what he has brought down from his mercy or from his blessings. And then after he makes this dua, within actually few hours, one day, within the same day, he all of a sudden gains wife, work, and home within the same day. And this is something that we would actually like to see in our lives, right? So many of us are asking for a good spouse. So many of us are asking for a good job, for a beautiful house. Nothing bad in that, absolutely. So Musa alayhi salam, he gets this almost instantly, but not without effort, right? So he helps these two women that he met. Then once he helped them, they get him to their father. So their father offers him to marry one of his daughters and then stay and work for him for a fixed term. So he agrees. So he has place to stay. He has a wife. He has a job. So this is actually one thing that we have to let's take it as a first part of the bracket of our lecture, is that you sometimes, and this is something that we struggle with, especially today, the instant gratification. So Musa alayhi salam, he did his part, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saw that this is a good time for him to receive all of these good things. But sometimes we ask for something, and it takes days, months, years until we get it. But Musa alayhi salam, he humbled himself, and he said that he is in dire need of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings down of his goods and mercy to this world. So there was no delusion that whatever he has achieved of having wife, of having work, or having house, was only by his effort. I came and I helped these ladies, and because I did it, it's all because of me. It's all because of my effort. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided that this is a good time for you to have all of these things, to support you with these things. But you did your part, you did your effort. And I decided, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it's a good time, and I made it extremely easy for you to get it. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy. It's not like it's always easy, and we all know that it's not easy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if he wants something to happen, and he wants something to be easy, then success will come. And sometimes we see that, there are things that seem to be, they come so, easily to some people, right? Some people, they easily get good grades at school. They easily get new job offers. They easily found a spouse. So if it is easy for someone, and it's not necessarily easy for someone else, it actually shows us that it's only easy because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted it to be easy for this particular person because of particular factors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed in the life situation of this particular person. And we will get into that going further with the story of Musa alayhi salam. So the major challenge, however, because this is when it came really easy to Musa alayhi salam. But that's the beauty of his story, that we start from this almost instant gratification. When he makes dua on the same day, he basically gets everything he needed. But then we get to some harder times. So Musa alayhi salam, once he is with his family, he is established, he sees the fire and he gets away from his family and he wants to see what this fire is about. And then he discovers that it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala communicating with him. So what comes next is that he orders Musa alayhi salam, who is being chased by Pharaoh, to go to speak with him directly. Like he asked Musa to face directly the person who wants to kill him. And he prepares him for this meeting in an unusual way, right? So he shows him all of these miracles, right? So he tells him to throw the stuff that he has on the ground, or the cane, and it will turn into the snake. And then when he gets it back, it will turn again to the cane or staff. And then put your hand under your armpit. It will become extremely white. So you will see like these things that are uncomprehendable. So you cannot comprehend the fact that a dead item is turning into a live snake, and your hand like literally changes completely. And I mean, you can technically say it's some sort of disease right now, right? But no, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable of doing so many amazing things that are uncomprehendable. So in these circumstances, we can assume that Musa alayhi salam could have asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this matter of meeting Fir'aun really easy for him, by saying that, Ya Allah, just transport me directly to Pharaoh so I can face him directly, talk to him, and maybe then just transport me to my house again, without actually facing all of these guards on my way to Pharaoh, without facing all of these potential risks, right? Because we have to understand that Musa was known there. Like, he was raised in the palace of Pharaoh, and he saw Pharaoh before. He was raised by him. So it's not like he was entering the palace and no one would actually notice that it's not Musa. Like, everyone knows Musa. And so it would be only logical for Musa to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to use some of these miracles to make this matter really easy to him. However, Musa alayhi salam asks something completely different. And this is the beauty of this particular story, that it makes the story universal for us, no matter the time and no matter the place. So he said, my Lord, expand for me my breast, my chest. So this is the first thing that he has asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to expand his chest, his breast, his heart. So imagine yourself being appointed with this crazy task that you have to face a person who wants to kill you, and you are about to tell them that there is only one God. You are about to say to the person, to one of the greatest tyrants in the history, that he is not a God. There is only one God, and that he will hold everyone accountable for what they are doing, and that you as an oppressor, you should reconsider yourself. So it brings you some nice set of different emotions. So it definitely brings you fear. So you are afraid that you might lose your life now. It brings you the anxiety that, oh my God, I run away from them and now I have to go back there. Like stress, everything you can imagine probably will burden you right now. And actually, it's amazing how this how this request of Musa alayhi salam is worded, that he asked to expand his chest. So it actually, when we look at the body language of people who are confident, who are free of all of these negative emotions, you'll find them like really open and their chest being expanded. And usually when we are overwhelmed with the negative emotions, we will find ourselves like really shrinked. We will see people with this big, hump and just, being so closed. So he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to expand his chest, to lift all of these negative emotions and to place some calmness in his heart, to place some calmness in his chest. That this calm, that this tranquility can only come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this sort of time and with this kind of challenge. And later on, Musa alayhi salam, he asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and ease for me my task. So we go back again to this principle that you cannot achieve success unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easy for you. So he made it easy for Musa alayhi salam to get a new life, right? To get a wife, house, work. And now with this task as well, and he wants to succeed in it, as it is command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he knows again that as strong as Musa is, because Musa was known for his strength, and as confident he can be in himself after going everything he has went through, he still asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for him. If it's not easy because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy, if it wasn't for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's no way that he can succeed in it. And this is a beautiful correlation to the hadith of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, who said that there is no easy thing except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy. If something is easy for you, it is made by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala easy for you. And then Prophet Muhammad ﷺ continues that even sadness can be made easy by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if he wills so. So actually when we look at it, we'll understand that we have to dig a bit deeper into that, because one thing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will sometimes make it in an incomprehensible way easy for you to finish some task. He will all of a sudden bring you some people maybe who will make it easier for you. He will put these circumstances in a way that will be easy, that will somehow in a way that you cannot explain, it will actually allow you to succeed in your task. But also part of making it easy is understanding that whatever characteristics that you have, whatever talents that you have, whatever advantages that you have as you, is also from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions to Musa alayhi salam, when he says that when he mentions that, and I produced you for myself. So he shaped Musa alayhi salam not only in a physical form, but his character, his talents, his characteristics, in a way that he knew that it will be easy for him to face Pharaoh. Despite all of the circumstances, it will be easy for him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy in so many different ways, but part of the process of making it easy is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created him in this way. So if we were to look at ourselves, we will definitely find things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed us with that makes certain things easy for us. Some people have an ease in talking to other people. They have an ease in healing people. They have an ease in doing so many different things. And we will find that people have talents in so many different areas. And this is part of Allah making this your path to success easy. It is out of His mercy that He gave you this capacity and these skills to achieve something that you can achieve. He will, inshallah, if He sees that it is good for you and you put enough effort, that He will also, you have to sort of discover the skills that Allah subhanahu, and understand that these skills are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that these skills are part of the making the whole process easy by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And later on, Musa alayhi salam, he asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and untie the knot from my tongue. So the way he has to deal with Pharaoh, he knows that he has to deliver the message in a proper way. And we know that Musa alayhi salam, he most likely had this issue of stuttering, that he was probably stuttering. So he wanted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to untie this knot from his tongue, to deliver the message in the best way possible to Pharaoh. But also, if we'll try to understand it, and this is also why he later on asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to strengthen him through Harun alayhi salam, through his brother, who had this, who was more skilled in delivering speeches, messages, and communicating with words. But also, so the understanding here is that the words matter. If you are to deliver some message, if you are to succeed in anything, usually it will at some point boil down to the way you deliver it, or the way you chose words to deliver whatever you wanted to deliver in order to achieve your success. So the words matter, the words that you use, the way you, the tone of your voice. And that's also why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in another place in Quran, He mentions that speak with him gently. So even though he was one of the greatest tyrants of all times, he still ordered Musa alayhi salam to speak with him gently. So the words and the way we formulate them, the way we deliver them, it matters. And then he asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and appoint for me an assistant from my family, Aaron, Harun alayhi salam, my brother, increase through him my strength and let him share my task. So it is another part of humbleness of Musa alayhi salam. He could have thought that, okay, so since I'm appointed as a prophet, I should be sufficient, right? And I went through all of these challenges and I always somehow survived. So why should I ask for help of anyone? No, he knew that there are some qualities that Harun has that he doesn't have, that they can complete each other, and that can make their that can make actually a difference. That can make them succeed in this mission. But later on, he mentions why he wants Harun alayhi salam to be alongside with him throughout this journey. That we may exalt you much and remember you much. Indeed, you are of us ever seeing. So again, humbleness of Musa alayhi salam, who knows at this point that on so many occasions he was able to, he could have died, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was always overseeing the whole process. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was always there to look at him, look over him, and he was making sure that he will reach this point when he will be ready for this next task. And task that is one of the hardest that one can imagine. So the humbleness here of Musa alayhi salam is that since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if it wasn't for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he wouldn't be here. So so he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to strengthen him through Harun alayhi salam, and to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to exalt him. Because without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of this wouldn't ever happen. And specifically when we talk about the challenges and tasks that we appoint for ourselves that seem to be really challenging and seems to be really hard and can bring on us all of these negative emotions that Musa alayhi salam has had at the very beginning, it is actually important why he mentioned that he will exalt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he will remember him a lot. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in another verse in the Quran, he says that those who have believed and whose hearts are assured and calmed by the remembrance of Allah, unquestionably by the remembrance of Allah, hearts are calm or assured. So it is let's call it a physics of religiosity or physics of morality. Whether you like it or not, and I hope you will like it, your heart will always find peace in remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Always. Always. It works like that. It is like gravity. It is there. So the same goes with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whenever you feel that your heart is tightened and it needs to be expanded and it needs to bring some peace, and you need to bring some peace to this heart, this peace will come only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it will come through his remembrance, just as Musa alayhi salam has stressed out this fact that they will remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they will exalt him with Harun alayhi salam. Another thing is that when it comes to achieving these things, whatever that might be, achieving success requires us to exceed, to do our best, to try to be the best version of ourselves. And we understand it when we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He produced for himself Musa alayhi salam. So he gave him specific qualities. He put him through specific trials to prepare him for a greater mission. It goes for all of us in an equal way. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you specific qualities. He put you through specific situations in your life. And He also says in the Quran that we have certainly created man in the best of stature. So He created us in a best way possible. So there is a potential, the best way possible. So we are created in the best way possible. So there is a potential for being the best that we can be. Doesn't mean that you will be the best in the world, but you can be the best version of yourself. And this is what is required from you. And this is actually what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ encouraged everyone to do. And he said that indeed Allah loves when the deed of one of you is made in a most perfect way. You try to perfect in it and you try to master it. When you try to master something, if you are doing something and you are trying to master it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves these kind of deeds. So you have these, so now the two components, the two major components, and maybe even three, let's say. The first component of success then, that we get to understand from the story of Musa alayhi salam is, of course, putting in effort. So Musa alayhi salam, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he made his steps to whether it was for to help the ladies, right? And then it resulted in him having wife, house, and work, or whether it was actually facing Pharaoh. He went and did that. So he actually made the effort. So this is the one component of success. The other one is understanding that the success will come only if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easy. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills to make it easy, the success will come. And the success will come if you put enough efforts. And if it will not come, it probably means two things. That either you didn't put enough effort, so the first condition is not met, or you put enough effort, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that whatever you wanted to achieve was not good for you, at least at this time, or is not good for you at all. So first thing is the effort. The second thing is the ease from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the third component, I would say, is actually perfecting the effort. Perfecting the effort and doing your best. So now going to the last part of this lecture. Sometimes we get carried away by the vision of achieving success, that how amazing it would be to actually achieve something. So how amazing that would be to get married. And now you're getting married. And all of a sudden it turns out that it's not as amazing as you first imagined it would be. Or for example, you were wishing for this job and you were imagining how amazing that would be to have this job in your hand. And now now you have this job, and it turns out that it's actually not as amazing as you imagine it will be. And it actually brings us to an understanding that we as human beings, we are actually not tempted, or shouldn't be, or maybe we shouldn't be focused on achievement. We should be focused on the process. If we look again, if we go back to the story of Musa alayhi salam, of course he faced Pharaoh, then he took the people of Israel to escape from Egypt. But he was supposed to go and reach the promised land, right? He was supposed to go and reach the promised land. But Musa alayhi salam actually never reached it. So he was wandering with people of Israel for 40 years in the desert. And he died before they reached. Does it mean that Musa alayhi salam hasn't succeeded? No. The process was on spot. He did everything he was supposed to do. He didn't see the result, but the process was there, and everything that was required from him to achieve the goal was met. But it wasn't necessary for Musa to actually live until this moment. And actually the same goes even for Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So when he was telling in the time of distress that he sees that Islam will reach Persia, it will reach Syria, it will reach all of these different parts of the world. But has he lived until this moment? No. But the process was there. He was still in the process. He did everything he was supposed to do. He met all of the conditions. He didn't live to see the result, the final result, something that we would naively call a success that I achieved. No, but it is his success. The fact that we are sitting here today, it is success of Prophet Muhammad والسلام, and all of the prophets that actually were before him. And even though they didn't see the result, the process mattered. The process of doing your part. Doing your part. It is a success in itself. And going back to the beginning of this lecture, do not ridicule the small components of success. And the fact that the process should be the goal in itself in this life actually goes hand to hand with the realization that the true success is not in this life. So this life can only be a process. If the ultimate goal is after this life, it means it can never be achieved here. So this life will always be a process. And there will be small successes throughout the way that we cannot turn our eyes away from. We have to appreciate them. And we should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make always these small successes easy for us. It's not easy for everyone to pray 5 times a day on time. It's not easy for everyone to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a good way. It's not easy for everyone to be good to their spouses. It's not easy for everyone. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy for you, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep making it easy for you. And you also always do your best to make it as smooth, as righteous as it can be. So this life is a process that will, inshallah, eventually lead us to the success that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us about. Al-Firdaus al-A'la, inshallah. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us and grant us these small successes in this life that will grant us a good life in this life and grant us, inshallah, Al-Firdaus al-A'la in the hereafter. If I have said anything good, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If anything was bad, then from me.